Some of you may not believe it, but I was not always a perfect boy as I am now. I wasn't always as well behaved as you think I am. And there were many times in my childhood where my parents would drag me by the collar of my shirt to our neighbor's home, would ring the doorbell, and then say, "What do you say now?" "I'm sorry." Louder, "I'm sorry." I should not have done that. It was wrong of me. So my mother would always teach me beforehand what I am supposed to say when I go to apologize for whatever it was that I did to a friend's children or to neighbors' kids, or let's not go into details. Let it be said that more than once I was taught by my mother how to take responsibility for my wicked actions as a child. I was told that you have to apologize. Once you learn that what you did was wrong, you need to go and ask their forgiveness. You need to take responsibility for the actions that you chose to perform. And you have to say, "I was wrong to do this." Today on this Mother's Day, I think this probably was one of the best lessons my parents and my mom gave me. It wasn't pleasant when it was happening, but it has been helping me to face my own shortcomings and to say I'm sorry when it needs to be said. I believe that as a church, we all need such a mother once in a while to drag us to neighbor's door and make us apologize and take ownership of the evil we have done. In the 1950s, Pope John XXIII issued a document in Latin titled Mater et Magistra, which means mother and the teacher. And John XXIII, saint by now, says that the church is our mother and the teacher. Actually, if you know any other language, you know that the church is a feminine noun. Iglesia, chiesa. So it's she. The church is our mother. And our mother needs to teach us that it's only right to apologize for what we did wrong. And boy, do we as Christians have reasons to apologize. Even as I was reading the passages assigned to this Sunday, I was disappointed by the way the author of the first reading is creating a conflict story in the Acts of the Apostles. You see, when you take creative writing classes, they tell you you need a conflict for the story to be interesting and exciting. So it appears that Luke, who writes the Acts of the Apostles, did take creative writing classes. And there is a conflict in his message. There are good characters and there are bad characters. Good characters are the apostles, Paul and Barnabas in this passage. They are the ones who are spreading the good news of Jesus. But he needs to create a conflict, right? So there needs to be Lord Voldemort, right? Or Vader. There needs to be something going on in this text. Otherwise, who will bother reading Acts of the Apostles if there is no conflict? So Luke says, well, even though Paul and Barnabas and Jesus and everybody is of Jewish blood, let's make the Jews the bad boys in this story. And did you catch how he's scapegoating the Jews in his Acts of the Apostles today? They are the ones who are plotting against Paul and Barnabas. They are the ones who are having behind-the-scenes conversations with rich and powerful women to kick them out of the city. It's the evil Jews in the Acts of the Apostles. And maybe a conflict like that works in creative writing classes, but it has terrible consequences when we take this conflict from the pages of the book to the streets of our cities. I think the first thing we as Christians need to apologize and take ownership of is the sin of anti-Semitism. It's right there in our New Testament books, used as a conflict story. But unfortunately, people inspired by these stories have used those texts to scapegoat the Jews. And for centuries, wherever Christians were, there were pogroms and anti-Semitism. Every time they needed a scapegoat for something going on, it would be the Jews to blame for. And my mother taught me that once you learn that what you did was wrong, you've got to apologize. So we as Christians, we have to say today, we are sorry. Anti-Semitism is evil, never justifiable. We will not do this again. That's what every mother should teach her children. Unfortunately, we didn't stop with anti-Semitism. There is something about white Christian culture that gives us sense of entitlement. And every time we do that, we use our faith and scriptures to excuse our evil actions. You know, it's like when your children fight and say, but she hit me first. It's never your fault, but you've got to take responsibility. And when the 15th century Europeans discovered that there is more to the world than Europe and Africa, when they found out what today we call the Americas, it was the Pope and other religious leaders who came up with a crazy idea that God gave white Europeans the right to go and conquer other lands and convert them to Christianity by any means possible. It was believed that we have a mandate, a divine right to conquer what wasn't ours. And I think if we are honest with ourselves, we've got to apologize for that. how we used religion to subjugate and sometimes annihilate all nations in the Americas is pure evil. And we should have known better. And we are sorry for that. And we have continued to use religion and scriptures to scapegoat others all the time until this very moment today. Whenever something is not going our way, we find and look for a reason, someone to blame. Maybe it's witches, maybe it's homosexuals, maybe it's immigrants. We always find a scapegoat to blame for our misfortunes and to use religion in the process. And my mother taught me better. When you know that what you did is wrong, you've got to stop and apologize. As Christians today, we have to take ownership of what we did in the name of religion, with the Bible in our hands, for all the sins that our foremothers and forefathers and we have committed. Your mother and my mother taught us better than that. There is no shame in saying, I'm sorry. There is no shame in saying, it was wrong of me to do that. Some people have a hard time acknowledging that they did something wrong. Some people will never admit any evil they did, any mistake. But my mom and your mom taught us better than that. Amen.